Good morning. I'm Mark Wood. Special welcome to the RCIA candidates. 70 years ago, my dad, who was a Navy pilot, returned from Guadalcanal and signed me up as a member of this wonderful parish. And except for my time with the Marines in Vietnam, I've been here ever since. With your extra hour of sleep, Monsignor Barry has asked me to entertain you with a few tales of growing up in American Martyrs Parish, and it shouldn't take me more than an hour or so. The parish began in 1920 in an old house, and all the parishioners could fit in the first couple rows of this church. During the Great Depression, these parishioners, some of whom literally lived in a tent city, scraped together enough money to build a small church down the hill at the corner of 10th and Highland. World War II arrived. It was a time when Loyola High students finished up after their junior year and went off to fight in the South Pacific. In 1945, our servicemen came home, moved into the little beach cottages, and Hermosa and Manhattan exploded from summer resorts to year-round communities. Our little church on Highland was so crowded that most of the congregation stood outside in the parking lot and then in sort of a reverent conga line cycled in and out for communion. An Irish immigrant, Monsignor Edmund O'Donnell, was a pastor. We loved him. He was a wonderful priest and a great businessman who could be found playing gin rummy and knocking down a little Irish whiskey with Harry Becker and other Manhattan Beach pioneers. He recruited his buddies from Ireland as assistants. And we older boys sometimes threw rocks at their bedroom windows to wake them up for the 6:30 Mass. But they were soft-hearted enough to raid the collection basket and give us money to go to the movies. Monsignor O'Donnell soon realized that the tiny church on Highland and the lack of a Catholic school demanded attention. His parishioners were struggling to finish their education under the GI Bill and to start new families. But they hustled donations and they signed pledges, and he took a big gamble and wound up with this nice, significant portion of Manhattan Beach. He sure had vision. In the 1940s, the beautiful complex that you'll see when you go out to the parking lot was just a huge sand dune. There wasn't even a 15th Street. And it came with a Metlocks pottery dump where the football field is now. When it rained, the dump became a huge lake. And my classmates and I, we loved sloshing around in the lake and smashing those Metlocks plates. Unfortunately for us, the nuns were not amused. The first priority was a Catholic school, 8 classrooms staffed by the wonderful Sisters of St. Joseph of Carondelet, who were paid the magnificent sum of $5 a month. They were not allowed to drive. School moms, the Uber drivers of the day, carted them around for shopping. The nuns grew their vegetables on 2 lots next to the convent. My 8th grade classroom had 64 students. 8 rows of 8, and it was easy to see why discipline was a very high priority for Sister Ann Dolores, who in her spare time also doubled as a principal. She put American Martyrs on the map when we all marched down Manhattan Beach Boulevard in our uniforms to the Lamar Theater to see Our Lady of Fatima. In addition to a great Catholic education, those nuns also turned us into great door-to-door solicitors. We pushed tidings subscriptions, Christmas cards, raffle tickets, and were constantly begging our neighbors for coins to ransom those pagan babies, whoever they were. Compared to today, parish organizations were pretty minimal. There was a mother's club and a separate father's club that supported the school, the Knights of Columbus, and of course, the Holy Name Society. After ending Mass with "Holy God, we praise thy name," which was about the only song I can remember we ever sang in English, we crossed the street to the Neptunian Club for breakfast with our dads. The Altar Society did the flowers. Everything else was done by Monsignor O'Donnell and his assistant. There were no lectors, there were no deacons, there were no extraordinary ministers. We had a great parish fair. At the south end of the school was a deep pit, and on Friday night, fortified by more than a little cerveza, the dads built a big fire in the pit. Prime rib roasts were wrapped up in wet burlap sacks, put on the coals, and then the pit was sealed up. The next afternoon, the pit was opened, and it was parish barbecue time. Those parishioners sure responded to the words you just heard in today's Gospel, the Sermon on the Mount. One Sunday, Monsignor O'Donnell asked for volunteers to help house thousands of orphans that were created by the war in Europe and had been brought to the United States by the Catholic Church. My folks took in a brother and sister from Yugoslavia and put them through high school. 8 of us shared a small house with 1 bathroom, and it wasn't long before Mom banished Dad to the kitchen to shave. The role of a Good Samaritan is a parish tradition, and after the Vietnam War, this parish also took in a number of boat people. After the school was up and running, parishioners took the next big leap and they built this church with labor from parishioners, as you saw in the video, and again financed by pledges. Monsignor O'Donnell supervised the construction, handing out a little beer in the afternoon to the workers. He lay dying when it was dedicated, but was able to hear the first Mass, which was sent over an open telephone line to his hospital room. American Martyrs has been blessed with 7 pastors and over 75 priests, including Jesuits who came down from Loyola U to help us out on Sundays. Those unselfish priests were our role models, helping us navigate the many changes resulting from Vatican II. Our Monsignor Deegan even wrote plays to be performed by the parish. In 1983, we got another Irish immigrant. He arrived to shepherd us into the 21st century. Of Monsignor John F. Barry, the Old Testament speaks, "Behold a great priest, who in his days pleased God. Therefore, in accordance with his promise, the Lord gave him growth for the good of his people." And growth Monsignor Barry brought to us in spades. Let me turn now to say a few words about you, about all of you in this church who deserve such a big pat on the back, because thanks to you and those who have passed on during Monsignor's reign, we have a wonderful, exceptional gift to pass on to your children, my grandchildren, and the generations to come. Under Monsignor's leadership, you have expanded the school. Most grades now have 3 classrooms, and it features a state-of-the-art science center and a faith center. You opened a preschool. You opened a kindergarten. You built a gym and a sports field used not only by the school, but by the community. You added meeting rooms to O'Donnell Center for parish events. You bought nearby houses for parish ministries. You built a parking structure, and you renovated this church, stopping the leaks, saving our stained glass windows, installing ramps for the disabled, refinishing the pews you're sitting in, did an earthquake retrofit, and made it inside and now outside the beautiful place of worship it is today. This is home for 6,500 regular members of this parish, and as you all know, for many, many more on Christmas and Easter. It's our place to hear Mass, for confession, to baptize, confirm, and educate our children, to marry our sons and daughters, and to bury our dead. Its clergy and staff visit our sick, provide counsel and solace, and gather us together for a parish fair or a cornerstone retreat. This parish is so important to the larger South Bay community, to the Little League, for youth basketball, for Alcoholics Anonymous meetings, for new moms, for senior citizens, for Girl Scouts, for Alzheimer's support groups. It's a place to donate blood or to cast your vote. This is where we collect money, food, and clothes for the poor, or go forth to build houses in Mexico. And it all works because you generously provide the funding, while much of the labor comes to us free or at a very reasonable cost. Efforts provided by the clergy and volunteers who work for nothing, and by teachers and staff who take a very modest salary. From up here, I see people in the pews that you can't see. I see Monsignor Edmund O'Donnell, and I see my mom and dad, and I see the Webbers and the Brewers and the McPhersons and the Snyders and the Cooks and many others. They started the school and they built this church, and they stretched to pay off their pledges. You and I were lucky enough to inherit it, and under the leadership of Monsignor Berry, with your hard work and your wonderful generosity, you turned it into the remarkable place it is today. Thank you for the parish which you'll pass on to your children, my grandchildren, your community, and generations to come. God bless those you can't see. God bless Monsignor Berry, the teachers and staff, and God bless each one of you. Thank you.